surviving 10 years of living with cancer. And I invite all of those people in that landmark to join me in ringing the bell. You have to get up. You have two choices. You can lie down and give up, or you get up. And if you get up, we're going to fight. Welcome back to Jack Ostroff's Hope Podcast. The lovely lady on my left, that's my wonderful wife, who's been with me on this journey for 10 years, 40 years in total. It's a long time to commit to somebody. But I wouldn't be here without her, and that's the truth. She's been amazing throughout this entire process. Could never ask for a better partner. Our podcast is really about holding on to positive energy. You know, this is a difficult challenge, but on the other hand, having some sense of hope, sense that some good things can come from all of this, that you can, as I call it, get out of jail. That is something that's important for people to understand, because without hope, it makes this journey very difficult. Take you back to our first podcast. The first podcast was really about the discovery of kidney cancer, how it affected me, and how we discovered it. Picked a surgeon, had the surgery, and recovered. We're quite optimistic at that point. And about a year later, in January 2017, the tumor returned. Tumors in my left lung, in my right lung, in the center, some images on my liver, some spots, and we were looking for a solution. And the medication of choice was immunotherapy. That was the latest at that point. And in 2017, my oncologist recommended a new version, a sort of a combined version. I just want to mention that the content we're sharing on this podcast reflects my personal journey and experiences as a cancer patient. I'm not a cancer or medical professional, and nothing discussed in this podcast should be considered medical advice. Always consult with your doctor or qualified medical provider for guidance related to your health diagnosis and treatment options. Every person's medical situation is unique, and personal medical advice should be tailored to your individual needs. It's quite the story we have for you. At the time, we were advised that 97% success rate in terms of no adverse effects, and that in the first year they had a 5-year rate of survival, 24%, which was better than before. Response rate, including complete and partial responses to were 44 to 58%, if I'm reading this correctly. More importantly, the statistics related to this medication were significantly better than any other drug, and they continue to use that today. So, for most people who took the drug, added to survival rates. There's a notation here regarding adverse effects. Immune-related adverse events, such as inflammation of the lungs, colon, liver, and kidneys. Other common side effects include fatigue, rash, and diarrhea. So it started with the rash. And when I was aware of that, I called into PMH at the GU clinic, and I told them I had a rash. And I think they were at that point concerned that it was having an effect, an adverse effect. The second adverse effect was I started talking nonstop.
Nonstop, 24 hours a day.
It's motor mouth, and that's, again, one of the side effects of the medication. And so the offset for the chronic inflammation, we're prescribed prednisone, 160 milligrams,
Which would take down an elephant.
Yeah, but it kind of solved the motor mouth issue. However, on December 2nd, thereabouts, because we were going to celebrate my birthday, the whole family congregated in my doctor's office at PMH. And I had a moment. He was talking about how I was recovering and things were looking okay. And I was telling them about how we were all going to go out after this to celebrate my birthday. And then it started, the motor mouth. And I probably said a couple of things that I shouldn't have said. And this is what happens when you're taking a lot of prednisone.
You told the oncologist he had a bad haircut.
Which he did, to be fair. Which he did.
You don't say it.
But you don't say it. There was no filter.
No filter.
No filter whatsoever. Then I told him I didn't like his tie. And that didn't go over well either, because the doctor and his associate exited the room. And about 10 minutes later, two rather large fellows appeared to escort me over to TGH, to where I could go and stay in a padded room for a little while.
Because it induces psychosis.
Now, my response was, well, actually, what was quite interesting is they were sold out that evening, and one of the nurses said to me, well, we're sold out, you can go home. And I said, this is how crazy I was. I said, I don't want to go home. not really a good idea. So there I was, and now committed, if you will. And it's quite the experience to be in with people who have serious mental health issues. It's sad. It's sad to see. I knew my issue was one that, as I was, taken off of the prednisone prednisone was slowly reduced, that, I would return to normal, or my version of normal at least. And
it takes several weeks because it's reduced at such a slow, it has to for safety reasons.
And so I was there basically for about a month. The other thing that you recognize when you're there is, unfortunately, there's some people with some very serious issues, and in the middle of the night you'd find that the troops came in. These are officers that had to sedate or deal with some patient that was out of control. So it can be a pretty scary place as well. My issue in terms of being motor mouth didn't stop.
Because when he's talking nonstop, he's also not eating, he's not sleeping, and he's not taking necessary medication. For example, it caused you needed diabetes, and you're required to take insulin, which he wouldn't take because he couldn't stop talking. He wouldn't swallow his medication. So it became quite a serious, and when you're not sleeping and not eating, all of that culminated in a very serious issue.
I also have to give a shout out to all my friends who took my calls very late at night. And the calls went on for a long time, asking them to get me out of jail. And of course, I had a couple of financial schemes that I thought were quite interesting. I told them I wanted to sell the house, and I was literally out of my mind, but I want to thank all of them for their patience in listening to me. And
I had to call our financial advisor and say, if Jack calls and tells you to sell all our stock and buy who knows what, please don't do that, because he wasn't in his right mind, but he could still make phone calls and tell people that, things he wanted to do. So if they call a bank manager or a financial advisor, you could end up in some serious trouble.
So when you believe that you're going to get up pretty quickly, I think you sort of resign yourself to the fact that that's a few weeks. And okay, we can watch a little bit of hockey, we can watch some TV, we can read. But the longer you stay, the more sort of irritated you get about being in there and more anxious you are about getting out. It's quite an experience. I don't recommend it for anybody. Certainly, not an enjoyable one, but listen, the medication saved my life. The inflammation was off the charts, and without the prednisone, I would not have survived. It did reduce the inflammation, and I did return to my normal, if you will. I want to mention something. I've quoted this a writer. I should just want to sort of backtrack a little bit. I was looking at the possibility of writing a book, and to be frank, I don't enjoy the writing experience and the editing experience, and I could never write one. And so I was always sort of hesitant about doing so. And I have a bit of a story about a friend of mine. Her name is Melanie Novus. And Melanie, unfortunately, pretty much during the same cycle I was going through a few years back, discovered she had brain cancer. They found a tumor. And Melanie wrote this wonderful book, and it's called My Journey Back to Me. And it really expresses, a lot of the things that she was feeling during the course of her recovery. And she's an outstanding writer. And Melanie's message in terms of recovering is courage, endurance, faith, hope, trust. I will not let my injury define me. And I think that those words are so powerful. I mean, that's really important to understand. Don't lose yourself during the course of this. Medication, treatment, these are challenges that all the cancer patients face. But, Melanie's message in terms of recovering is really poignant and on target. And I tell you, the read is a wonderful read. It took me back to my journey, and I would highly encourage you to read it. I found it really helpful. And again, it's available on Amazon. Finally, as mentioned previously, Sean and I are not earning any dollars related to this endeavor in terms of the podcast. We're not interested in making money from this. Our interest is in raising money, and we're hoping to raise money for research for kidney cancer, and ask you to donate. And in the pages that follow, there'll be links that can take you to Kidney Cancer Canada, where you can donate directly to Kidney Cancer Canada. Another link to Princess Margaret Cancer Foundation, again, to donate directly to Princess Margaret Cancer Foundation. The research has brought during the course of my 10 years, at least 4 major medications that were not
available. No.
When this started. I mean, there was one medication at the time that I started this, and the outcome or the success related to that medication was like 10%. It was pretty low. That's pretty frightening stuff.
Or sometimes medications are available in the United States, but they haven't been approved yet in Canada. And the oncologist said some patients will spend $30,000, $40,000 a month to get life-saving medications in the United States that have not yet been approved in Canada.
In Canada, we've managed to get those medications. Typically, there's a bit of a longer time before they're introduced in Canada. So hopefully you have the ability to wait. But the key message here is they're now available in Canada. And that those medications have allowed me to survive for the course of 10 years. And I haven't used all 4. I'm on my 3rd. So I'm hoping that your journey will take you well beyond mine, and hopefully, and just to put things into context, there have been people that start on medication and experience no evidence of disease. I'm not saying that's common. I'm saying it's happened. And that always gives you a little more hope. That, maybe it'll be me one day. Maybe it'll be this drug that will just sort of work for me. And I'm hoping that's the case for many of you out there. So kindly donate what you can. This is not just about me or you. This is about us, my family, your family, our friends, our community. And, unfortunately, cancer touches just about everybody. So give generously if you can. Whatever you can is certainly, we'll take everything, anything that's offered. And further, we just thank you for listening. And the story gets even more interesting as we go. So thank you for tuning in. We'll be back to you with our next podcast shortly.
Take care.
All the best, everybody.